Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat basketball channel. After a relatively quiet trade deadline where the Miami Heat failed to upgrade via the trade market, the Heat have finally upgraded their roster, and they have done that through the wonderful buyout market, which was a follow-up to the February trade deadline. And so Miami was able to manufacture two players that are definitely going to be upgrading our roster and will definitely fulfill some needs for the Miami Heat. So the Heat recently signed former All-Star big man Kevin Love as well as Cody Zeller. And so both of these players are respected veterans who could bolster the Miami Heat's bench and essentially can make them incrementally better. Better is good for the Heat, but the Heat are going to definitely face a dogfight, not only to get into the playoffs, but in the playoffs, because the East has been much improved this season. Luckily for the Heat, though, Brooklyn's suddenly a shit show after the midseason with the trades of both Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant. The Nets are still in the 4th seed, so I predict that they're going to fall a few slots throughout the remainder of the season, which is around 22 to 25 games, depending on the team. So the Heat can potentially leapfrog the Nets if they play their cards right, and potentially can have home court advantage in the first round of the playoffs. So we shall see what happens. So in this episode, I just wanted to quickly go over who I think should start for the Miami Heat for the remainder of the season. The Heat have 23 games left. So far, they're currently the 7th seed in the Eastern Conference Finals. They're 32-27. They currently are behind the Knicks and the Nets and the Cavs, as I mentioned. So I think, honestly, we need to shake up this starting lineup. So the projected starting lineup for the year, and initially, before we had all these injuries and added players, we had Kyle Lowry starting at the point guard, Tyler Herro at shooting guard, Jimmy Butler at small forward, Caleb Martin as our power forward, and Bam as our center. So that lineup has only played around 18 games together. They've been pretty good together. They're definitely they're plus 9 or so out of 100 possessions. So when they're on the floor together, they have been good, but we've had a slew of injuries from these players, and so they've been in and out of the starting lineup a ton throughout the year. And so we've had plenty of different starting lineups throughout the season, and so there hasn't been consistency. Kyle Lowry, in my opinion, is semi-washed, and so he's dealing with injuries. He's dealing with not being necessarily a right fit with the Miami Heat so far in his short career with the Heat. Tyler Herro seems to have slightly improved as a starter. His numbers are almost exactly the same, and his minutes have gone up by 3 or 4 minutes, but everything else seems to be the same. Jimmy Butler has missed about 17 or 18 games this season, so that's been detrimental. And Bam has been relatively healthy throughout the year, which has been great because he's obviously had a improved season and is playing some of his best basketball in his career, which is great. So let's look at the Heat depth chart real quick. So at point guard, we have Lowry and Gabe Vincent. At shooting guard, we have Herro, Oladipo, and Max Strus. At the small forward position, we have Jimmy, Haywood Highsmith, and Duncan Robinson. Power forwards, we have Martin, who I would probably classify more as a small forward, but we have Martin, Kevin Love, and Nikola Jovic. And at center, we have Bam, Cody Zeller, Omer Yurtseven, and I guess Udonis Haslem. So we have more depth now, which is great. So I'm excited about the additions. in our front court because those fulfilled those two big needs that we had. And we have more depth now, and we can put Kyle potentially on the bench, especially while he's injured, right? He needs to get back into shape, get back into rhythm with the team. So having Kyle Lowry come off the bench with Caleb Martin and Cody Zeller is going to definitely help, as well as with Max Strus. So in my opinion, I think with the remainder of the 23 games left before the playoffs, my starting lineup would be putting Victor Oladipo at point guard. Might be controversial, might not be the best fit, but Victor Oladipo started off his career as a point guard with the Orlando Magic, I believe, and also the Thunder. Vic is a good playmaker. I mean, he's not the best shooter. He's inconsistent with that, but he's going to bring amazing point-of-attack defense. He is improved as a playmaker. He can attack the rim as well and put pressure on guards and bigs, like in terms of rotation. So I think Vic could be a good fit, especially based on his defense. So Tyler Herro, of course, should be the starting 2 guard. Jimmy should start at 3. I think the Heat's new addition, Kevin Love, should start at 4. He should, in my opinion, roughly play anywhere from like 24 to 28 minutes per game maximum. And then I also think Bam obviously will round out that starting 5. I included Depot in the starting point guard position because the Heat are typically going to have to play more zone defense when they have players like Tyler Herro in the game, or Duncan Robinson if he's in the rotation, or when Caleb Martin goes on the bench and Strus comes in. So I think he can help mask having both Kevin Love, who's very mediocre at defense, on the floor, as well as Tyler Herro, who's slightly improved, but still a liability and someone who gets targeted often at the end of games. So that's my starting lineup. I think Victor Oladipo and Tyler Herro would be the X factors in that group for sure. Tyler Herro, more so in my opinion, is the ultimate X factor that needs to prove that he can finish out the season strong as a starter, as well as make up for his horrible performance in the playoffs last year. Prior to having his soft tissue injury, he still played terribly and disappeared. So I know not having a true point guard is not ideal, but we have so many playmakers on the court. So of course we could run the offense through Jimmy Butler. We can obviously run the ball through Bam. We can even run some plays through Kevin Love, who's not a bad passer. I think he's underrated. So I'm excited for the addition of Love and Zeller coming off the bench, which will definitely help with our defensive rebounding and hopefully offensive rebounding. So the Heat have been winning most of the games that they win the rebounding battle. They're 19-5 this season whenever they win the rebounding battle. And so anytime they don't win the rebounding battle, they basically lose. And so Kevin Love is 34 years old. He is at the twilight of his career, in my opinion, but he is still an amazing rebounder. He has a knack for it. He has a nose for the ball. He averaged 6.8 rebounds in under 20 minutes per game, which is pretty impressive. So his shooting efficiency has been down this season, but he has been dealing with a couple injuries, a back injury, and then most recently a thumb injury where he's missed the last 12 games or so. So he hasn't played in a month, but when he was playing, he was still rebounding at a high clip, and that's going to help us defensively negate extra possessions that our opponents have gotten on us. And so Kevin Love is going to be able to allow Bam to leak and go on breaks and be that outlet for Kevin Love. So I'm excited with the potential for this starting lineup. If Victor Oladipo, who's been injured himself, and the Heat have been giving him some rest prior to the break, if he is still nagging or nagged by injuries, then I would definitely substitute Gabe Vincent for Oladipo and still bring Kyle off the bench. I just think he'd be better off the bench and not playing with Tyler Herro. Gabe Vincent has better chemistry with Tyler Herro, and defers pretty well to Tyler when he's streaky, unlike Kyle Lowry. So I think Gabe would be good because, again, he's another good point of attack defender. He could hit an open three. He's inconsistent, but he's not a big playmaker himself anyway. The only true point guard we do have is Kyle, and who knows? I don't know what the status is with him. I know he's coming back by the end of February, but he has knee issues. Maybe he has a hamstring issue that he's been dealing with that's hampered him. And he knows that the NBA is a business and that he was on the trading block and openly being shopped. So I don't know where he stands in terms of confidence in the team or chemistry. So, yeah, I would substitute Gabe for Vic for some reason if it was due to injuries. But that's my opinion. That's what I think should start for the remainder of the season. I think we should test out that lineup for the next 23 games, see if we can get some consistency there, see if we can build up some chemistry, see if we can put together some wins and move up in the rankings in the Eastern Conference and trying to get that home court advantage at the 4 seed, which would be amazing if we could leapfrog the Cavs, play them in a 4-5 series. Would be fun to see Kevin Love against his former team. So, yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on that starting 5, and let me know in the comments who you would prefer to start for the remainder of the season. Thanks for watching. Take care. Talk to everyone soon.